If you've ever wondered what it's like to be a mug, let me tell you, it's nothing like being a spoon, and it's definitely not like being a plate. Spoons get lost in the garbage disposal, plates get chipped and stacked and forgotten, but a mug, especially a favorite mug, lives a life of purpose. I should know. I'm the blue and white mug with the faded "World's Best Dad" scrawled across my belly, the one with the tiny chip on my rim, and the handle that fits just right in a hand that's seen too many winters. I've been here longer than the toaster, longer than the dog, and, if I'm honest, longer than some of the dreams that used to fill this kitchen. My first memory is of warmth, scalding, swirling, fragrant warmth. Coffee, of course. I was born for it. I remember the first time John picked me up, his hands rough but gentle, the way he cradled me as if I were something precious. He didn't say much that morning, just stared out the window at the snow, steam curling from my rim. But I felt it, the weight of his thoughts, the heaviness in his chest. I was there for him, the silent witness, the vessel for his hopes and his caffeine. Over the years, I became more than just a mug. I became a confidant, a keeper of secrets, a silent partner in the daily ritual of waking up and facing the world. I've heard laughter, deep, belly-shaking laughter that rattled my ceramic bones. I've felt the tremble of hands during arguments, the way John's fingers would tighten around my handle when words failed him. I've been the centerpiece of countless mornings, the silent observer of love, loss, and everything in between. But it's the conversations I remember most. The ones that happened when the world was still half asleep, when the kitchen was bathed in the soft gold of sunrise. That's when the real magic happened. That's when secrets were spilled, confessions whispered, and dreams dared to be spoken aloud. There was the morning when little Emily, hair a wild halo of curls, climbed onto the counter and declared she was going to be an astronaut. She poured orange juice into me, orange juice, and giggled as she sipped, her feet swinging above the floor. John just smiled, ruffled her hair, and told her she could be anything she wanted. I felt the fizz of hope, the electric charge of possibility, and for a moment I believed I could fly too. Then there was the day Sarah sat at the table, her eyes red and swollen, her hands wrapped around me like I was the last warm thing in the world. She didn't say much, just stared into the dark swirl of coffee, her tears falling silently into my depths. John sat across from her, his own mug forgotten, and reached out to touch her hand. I felt the tremor in her fingers, the way she clung to me as if I could anchor her to the earth. I wanted to say something, to offer comfort, but all I could do was hold the warmth a little longer, hoping it would seep into her bones. I've seen love bloom and wither, watched children grow and dreams change shape. I've been dropped, chipped, and glued back together. Each scar tells a story, each stain a memory. I've survived dishwashers and careless hands, survived the purge of old things when the kitchen was remodeled. I was almost tossed out once, but Emily, older now, her curls tamed into a ponytail, snatched me from the box and cradled me to her chest. "Not this one," she said, her voice fierce. "This one stays." That was the day I realized I wasn't just a mug. I was a memory, a piece of the family's story, woven into the fabric of their lives. I was the vessel for their mornings, their confessions, their quiet moments of hope and heartbreak. But nothing could have prepared me for the morning everything changed. It started like any other day. The sun crept through the blinds, painting stripes across the table. John shuffled into the kitchen, his hair sticking up in wild tufts, and reached for me. I felt the familiar weight of his hand, the gentle clink of the spoon as he stirred in the sugar. But there was something different in the air, a tension, a heaviness that pressed down on everything. Sarah came in next, her face pale, her eyes darting to John and then away. Emily followed, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her phone clutched in her hand. No one spoke. The silence was thick, suffocating, broken only by the soft clink of my rim against John's teeth. Then, out of nowhere, Emily blurted, "I got into Stanford." The words hung in the air, shimmering with possibility and fear. John's hand trembled, coffee sloshing dangerously close to my chipped edge. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling as she tried to smile. For a moment, time stood still. I felt the weight of their dreams, the fear of letting go, the ache of pride and loss, all tangled together. I wanted to shout, to cheer, to tell them that everything would be okay. But all I could do was hold the warmth, the hope, the love that filled me to the brim. That was the morning I realized that even a mug can have a heart. Even a mug can break. But the story doesn't end there. Not for me, not for them. Because every morning brings a new beginning. A new chance to witness the quiet miracles of ordinary life. And as long as there's coffee to pour and secrets to share, I'll be here, chipped, stained, and utterly irreplaceable, waiting for the next story to unfold. After that morning, the kitchen felt different. The air was charged with anticipation, like the hush before a thunderstorm. Boxes began to appear, cardboard towers rising around me, filled with books, clothes, and the odd stuffed animal that Emily couldn't quite let go of. I watched as she packed her life into neat, labeled stacks, her laughter a little more brittle, her silences a little longer. John tried to hide his worry behind bad jokes and extra strong coffee, while Sarah hovered, folding and refolding shirts, her hands never quite still. I was there for all of it. I felt the tremor in John's grip as he poured his morning brew, the way Sarah lingered over her tea, staring into my depths as if searching for answers. Emily, too, would sometimes sit at the table, her fingers tracing the faded letters on my side, her eyes far away. I wanted to tell her that it was okay to be scared, that leaving home was just another kind of adventure, but all I could do was offer the comfort of warmth and familiarity. The night before Emily left, the family gathered in the kitchen for one last late-night snack. The air was thick with nostalgia and unspoken words. John made grilled cheese sandwiches, burning the edges, just the way Emily liked. Sarah brewed chamomile tea, filling me to the brim and wrapping her hands around me as if she could hold back time. Emily sat between them, her knees pulled up to her chest, her eyes shining with excitement and fear. They talked about everything and nothing, old vacations, embarrassing stories, the time Emily tried to microwave a fork. Laughter bubbled up, mingling with tears, and for a moment, the kitchen was filled with the kind of love that makes you believe in forever. I felt it all. The ache of goodbye, the thrill of new beginnings, the bittersweet beauty of change. When the clock struck midnight, Emily stood up and hugged her parents tight. She reached for me, her hands gentle, and whispered, "I wish I could take you with me." For a moment, I hoped she would. I imagined new kitchens, new mornings, new stories. But she set me back on the table, her fingers lingering on my chipped rim. "You belong here," she said softly. "You're part of this place." The next morning, the house was quieter. The kitchen felt emptier, the sunlight a little less golden. John sat at the table, staring into his coffee, his hands wrapped around me like a lifeline. Sarah moved through the room in slow motion, her eyes red but determined. I missed Emily's laughter, her wild curls, the way she made even the gloomiest mornings feel bright. Days turned into weeks, and life settled into a new rhythm. The boxes disappeared, replaced by postcards and phone calls, by stories of dorm rooms and new friends. I listened as John and Sarah read Emily's letters aloud, their voices trembling with pride and longing. I felt the ache of absence, the way the kitchen seemed to echo with memories. But life I've learned, is full of surprises. One rainy afternoon, the door burst open and Emily tumbled in, soaked and breathless, her arms full of books and her heart full of stories. She hugged her parents, laughed at the dog's frantic welcome, and made a beeline for the kitchen. She reached for me, her hands warm and familiar, and filled me with cocoa, just like she used to. As she sipped, she told stories of late-night study sessions, of new friends and old fears, of the way the world seemed both bigger and smaller than she'd ever imagined. John and Sarah listened, their eyes shining, their hands entwined. I felt the warmth of their love, the way it wrapped around me like a favorite sweater. That night, as the house settled into silence, I sat on the counter watching the moonlight dance across the tiles. I thought about all the mornings I'd witnessed, all the secrets I'd kept, all the love I'd held. I realized that my purpose wasn't just to hold coffee or tea or the occasional splash of orange juice. My purpose was to be here, to witness the quiet miracles of ordinary life, to remind this family, my family, that even the smallest things can hold the biggest stories. And so, I wait. For the next morning, the next confession, the next burst of laughter or flood of tears. I wait for the hands that will pick me up, for the voices that will fill the kitchen with life. I know now that I am more than just a mug. I am a memory, a witness, a vessel for love and hope, and everything in between. If you ever find yourself in a quiet kitchen, holding a chipped old mug, remember, we see more than you think. We hold your stories, your secrets, your dreams, and we're always here, waiting for the next chapter to begin. Because in the end, it's not the coffee or the tea that matters. It's the moments in between, the laughter, the tears, the whispered hopes that make life worth living. And as long as there's someone to hold me, to fill me, to share their mornings with me, I'll be here. Chipped, stained, and utterly irreplaceable. Just like the memories we hold.